All right. We are about to get started. There I am. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. This is going to be a webinar on setting up the ultimate trading station. We're going to be talking about all the components that go into having a really actionable layout for everything you need to look at, and it's going to be good stuff. We're going to be covering multiple setups for different amounts of monitors. We're going to be going over some of the indicators I think are crucial. Some of the tools that aren't specifically trading based that I think really help a trader throughout the day. And yeah, it's going to be very informative. And this is something that I wish I really had when I started trading, because one of the biggest problems is when you're first getting started, it's so easy to clutter your screen with so many things you don't need, and everything's drawing your eye. All of these colors are blinking and lines are moving, and to be able to know what information is actionable and to be able to know how to lay that out in a way that's easily accessible is a really big difference maker, especially if you're trading short-term stuff like intraday, scalping, options, anything like that. It really requires fast execution, and it needs to be a setup that enables quick decision making. So that's the goal. That's what we're going to work on today, and I think that you'll get a lot out of this, because I know I definitely would have when I started trading. So I'm going to switch on over. Here we go. There is the fancy openings slide here. Hey, DJ2AM. Good to see you, brother. Good to see you. All right. So yeah, we're going to go over a little bit about the basics of a trading setup. We're going to go into the core components of each trading station, things like a brokerage, which website or which program to watch the charts on themselves, which to execute on, what else you need to have available, some really useful tools that maybe you're not even aware of. So yeah, it's going to be very informative in that regard. We are going to talk about some workflow optimization. I touched on that, but basically the way to navigate the setup you'll have so that you can easily and effectively go from having the idea of a trade to executing the trade. We'll do a quick live demo. I'll just show you how I run my screens, and I'm doing it on hard mode. I'm doing it. I challenged myself to set up just using TradingView's first tier, which isn't expensive, and I challenged myself to set up an actionable station with just 2 charts and with just 5 indicators. You don't really need more than that. Welcome, Tyler. Good to see you, man. So yeah, we're gonna get into all of that, and then if you have any questions, we can talk about that, and let's get into it. So I really do believe that the difference between a profitable trader and one that's struggling, it isn't just about how you're trading. It isn't just about like the strategy you're using or the indicators that you're using. It's about being able to efficiently process the information needed to make a good decision. So essentially, it's so easy to maybe second guess yourself because you have too much information on the screen and it's giving you conflicting signals, or maybe you don't have what you need in front of you and you have to go digging through, different tabs or different windows or remembering what you searched or, all that kind of stuff. When if you just have it ready to go and know where it is, it's just a couple seconds to get the information you need and to enter that trade. So some key stats are that like traders with organized setups are like scientifically 3 times more consistent. So I didn't believe that either, but it's a legitimate study. And essentially it seems like kind of what I was just describing. There's so many things that can get in the way of you pulling the trigger on a setup that you know is good. And it's just about streamlining everything so that if you're efficient, you'll just miss less trades, because I know we've all been there and it feels terrible. But it is what it is. It is what it is. We can do what we can to mitigate it by getting all the information we need in front of us. Pros average a decision like under a second. And for the retail trader, we often take 5-4 seconds. I don't know about you. Sometimes I take 10 seconds. So, and that's just in terms of like actually firing the trade off. So if we can narrow down that window, we'll really be cooking. We'll really be able to get into the trades exactly when we need to. So core components of a trading station, it really depends on how many monitors you have, because we're all about maximizing our screen real estate, right? So the more you have, the better, I will admit. What I use is I have one ultra wide monitor, which is essentially 2 normal monitors. And then I also have a third monitor vertically on the side. And so for me, that's optimal, but I think it's totally doable to trade off of one monitor. You just have to really, really get the information boiled down to the essentials. So for that, I would use TradingView. I would use TradingView if you have access to the tier that lets you have 4 charts or more. 8's good too. On a screen at a time, that's really good. And essentially, it'll let you watch all the things you really need to do to day trade. So you need to watch SPY. You need to watch VIX. Obviously, SPY is the market as a whole. VIX is our volatility index. And so this will give us really good confirmations on our like index trades, for example. So if SPY is about to break a level and then I see VIX break down at like right as I'm eyeing SPY for the breakout, that helps me build confidence to get long SPY. So it's really important to have those two. I think it's also really important to have the Qs on your screen, QQQ. That's the tech index. And essentially the tech components tend to be, risk on. And so when the market is essentially wanting to bid, often they will bid these assets first. So the QQQ will move, then SPY will move. And as you're watching these two happen in tandem next to each other, you can really kind of see the progression and the flow of money from one index to another or from one stock to another. So I know some of you guys trade small caps. Little known fact about small caps is there's only a small basket every given day that essentially institutional traders will cycle through in small caps. So you'll watch one pump and then they'll take their money, and then you'll watch them put it into another one and they'll take another trade. And so because of that, if you have a bunch of these, like if you scan in the morning, and we'll talk about this in the optimization of workflow, but if you scan in the morning for these high volume, high mover, these kind of stocks, and you get your charting ready and you have, let's say 6 of those up, and then you have SPY and VIX, it just to, kind of keep tabs on the market as a whole. So you'll be able to see the money going from one of these small caps to another to another. It's really cool stuff. So I think having multiple charts open in front of you, no matter how many screens you have available, is really key just to essentially get a feel for the movement of money throughout the market. So if you do have one monitor, I've been there, it's totally doable. TradingView with 4 charts ideally, but you could also just do 2, SPY and VIX. And what you can do is you can have multiple windows, multiple tabs, I should say. And then you can use Control Alt. Let's see. Yeah, I believe it. Yeah. Control Tab. Thank you. Control Tab to essentially cycle through those tabs really fast. So doing this, you can quickly check the indexes, and then you can switch back to your focus stocks, and you can do this all from one monitor. I think that it's also important to have a separate window. So you have these 2 charts, or as many charts as you want, in one window, and they're just different tabs, right? Then you have a separate window, And that's where our other tools are going to be. That's where our other tools are going to be. And by that, I mean anything that can kind of help us inform our trading. So there's a lot of categories of that, and we're going to get more into them. But I just want you to keep that in mind. If you have one monitor, it's good to have two windows, and then you can alt tab to cycle through those windows really quickly. So there's that. And then there's also what you'll need is obviously an execution platform. So ideally, you can have this in its own window and its own monitor. But if you're rocking one, there are a few options. The first is, I know a lot of people who actually use their phone to execute trades if they're trading on Robinhood or Webull or even Thinkorswim, Fidelity, Schwab. There are apps out there. I don't think it's the best way, but it is an option, and some people are more comfortable with that. So I just wanted to throw that out there. The other way is that you can, for many platforms, kind of minimize the window until it's essentially just what you need to execute. So you don't really need to look at the charts on there because you want the screen with your charts already up. So doing this, you can have just the little execution window kind of popped up in the corner of your screen, and that won't take up much real estate. It won't be too distracting. And when you're ready, you can just boom, get right in there. And alt tab, of course, to get to the window to highlight it. Then you'll be right in there. So if you're doing the setup, I think it's really important to only take one trade at a time, or at least one short-term trade, because it's pretty stressful to have to cycle through a billion different tabs and to do all that whole dance. And it's just, I think it's really conducive to learning and growing to just trade one trade at a time and really focus on trading it the best you can. All right. So those are kind of the core components for a one monitor setup. What if you have two monitors? Well, here you get into more balanced use of your screen because you don't have to kind of cycle through things or, make concessions and make things really small. If you have two, you have a dedicated one for charts. And remember, we can have multiple sets of charts with tabs on TradingView. And if you're on Thinkorswim, there's also many, many options to customize your grid. And then you can have as many charts as your computer can run. So that's a great option too. They're both free. TradingView, you need a subscription to have multiple charts. So that's a caveat, but personally, I found it worth it. So we have our charts that's on TradingView or maybe Thinkorswim. And then you have your other monitor split for a couple different things. You want a little dedicated space for your execution platform if you have two screens. And you also want to have some other stuff up. So I personally trade in my Discord community a lot. I know a lot of other people have their own communities or, are part of one. And it's really, really useful to get that information fast. So for me, on my third monitor, I have that Discord just always up on half of that monitor and my execution platform on the other. So that's great. What you can also do is you can use the second monitor and you can divide that into two areas, basically. So you have your execution platform, and then you also have, kind of like a pinch hitter space for whatever you really need it for, whether it's Discord or maybe it's some of the web tools we're going to talk about. I think you guys will love these because they're free to use and they give you a ton of valuable, actionable alpha information on trading the market. Yeah, and it's totally free. It's just in a tab and you can check them constantly throughout the day, as much as you need. So that's how I would divide it. You have your charts on one side and your execution platform and kind of pinch hitter mixed tab, just whatever you need to fill in the gaps there, half a screen there. So there are also really good programs. There's one called, I think, Fancy Zones. I can double check on that later, but if you search that, I'm sure you'll find it. And it's essentially a way to snap windows into custom grids or custom places on your screen. So that's really useful for if you either have one monitor and need to divide it up, or if you have two and you want to do this split screen thing. So 3 monitors. Now we are living the high life. You are a professional trader. Anybody who walks into your room will think that. And so essentially it really allows a lot of flexibility. And this is my preferred setup just because, hey, I want as much information that'll help me throughout a trading day right in front of me. So I have my first monitor and I've got like SPY short-term charts. I have VIX. See, I mentioned 5 minutes on SPY and Qs because that's what I normally trade off, but I like the 1 minute on VIX just because remember I said like, if you're on the verge of a breakout, breaking a level in SPY and you see VIX kind of lead that, then, I want to really hone in on that because that's what I use it for, a leading indicator kind of. So yeah, I use a 1 minute on there and then I'll rotate between whatever seems to be relevant in the market narrative that day. So some days that's gold, some days that's the dollar, DXY. Some days that's bonds, short-term bonds like TNX or TLT. And whatever me and my trading friends have been noticing the market's trading on, that's what I'll have up. And I'll just kind of keep tabs on all of these, and it'll essentially be my home base to kind of get a feel for the market as a whole. And if any of you were here for my webinar a couple of weeks ago, we talked about setting up an actionable watch list. So that's always up too on the screen. And that gives me the top 20 stocks. It gives me the strength of all the different sectors. It gives me all of the indices I could possibly need all at my fingertips, and as well as my focus list too. So then I can have, my SPY and my QQQ and my VIX up. And then I can just on the last panel there, I can just switch between, click whatever is on my watch list and get it right there in front of me. So I always have this going. I also have a second set of tabs or a set of charts kind of, in another window on that tab, still on the same screen. And I just do the same thing, with whatever I want to watch, but maybe I don't need to watch all the time, right? So I want to check on these every hour or something. So that's where those hide. Then I have, let's see, my execution brokerage and my Discord open on my vertical monitor. And on the right side of my screen, I have a whole bunch of different things that I switch through. So let's see, I think on my next chart, I'll talk about that. Okay. Sorry, I made this a few days ago. The first thing here is that there are some indicators that I consider must-haves. You don't need them, but there's some things that I've used for years and years and found consistent value in them year after year. So many indicators, you kind of peel them off your charts as you get to be a better trader. You stop needing them. You stop relying on them. You start realizing they're not as ironclad as you might have thought. But there are a few that really have stood the test of time for me, and those are the ones that I think everybody would do well to have on their screen. So first off, volume, incredibly important. If you guys aren't trading with volume sticks, please turn them on. They help a ton. We can go through a whole lesson on why volume is so important. But analyzing volume is key to gauging the legitimacy of a move. If a stock's breaking out, but it's on a weak volume, I'm pretty sketchy and I probably won't take that trade. If there's big volume, that gives me the confidence I need. So you have the volume, and so then you know what time the volume came in with that indicator. There's also the volume profile. So the volume profile is on the left side of your screen, and it is the same as a volume for the time axis, but it's for the price axis. So you'll see a big thick level if a lot of shares were traded at a certain price. And this is super, super useful for picking your levels to trade off of, because I promise you, if you start using the volume profile and noticing these volume shelves and these volume gaps, you'll notice the areas where the market has a really hard time trading through when they act as resistance, or when they just slice right through them and they act as a low liquidity zone. So if you're buying into those high resistance zones and then you're selling into those gaps, it's really useful strategy and way to think about the market. And this is a great indicator to do that with. So besides the volume ones, I think there are a few that are pretty key. So let's talk about them. You need some kind of moving averages. It could be as simple as one. It could be as simple as VWAP. So VWAP, I think, should be on everybody's charts. But I think that there are a couple other sets of moving averages that really help gauge the strength of the market. So short-term ones like a 9 and a 21 EMA, that's a great combo. And they let you, say you get in a trade off of like a level that you've identified as support from the volume profile. So you get in, you know that you have solid ground beneath you, and this trade starts working. Well, how do you know how long to stay in the trade? I think that it's really important to be able to say, okay, we're riding the short-term moving average. The momentum is still here. People are buying all the dips. We are cooking. It's all good. And then you have the 21, which is a little bit more like, okay, this is, maybe there can be one or two of these pullbacks in the uptrend. But if you start getting this kind of look after it's already been trending up for quite a while, for a few hours, maybe volume starting to dry up in the market, then you can start using this as like, okay, if we close a candle below this, then I'm going to stop out of this scalp, this momentum trade, this options trade, something like that. And so it's really important to have those. And I think it's also important to have a little bit longer time frame ones too. So I think the 50 and the 200, especially the 200, simple moving average. So not EMA, but SMA. I think these two are amazing to have on your screen. The 200 in particular, it's so cool. If you guys put a 200 moving average on any time frame and pull up any chart, you will see reactions to all these different levels, especially the 1 minute. That's great for you scalpers out there. If the stock is trading over the 200-minute moving average, it's probably has momentum to the upside on the day. And if it loses that, then you're in trouble. So that's a really key level to watch, and it works on all time frames. One more thing that I think is really useful is in terms of like, when do you know when to take profits? Sure, we have the moving averages to gauge when a move is getting weaker, but we always want to sell into strength ideally, right? We want to sell that big pop when they're sweeping all the stops over a key level, and we want to get that really good price and not sell, stop out, maybe a little bit, but maybe a significant amount lower than selling into strength would get you. So to do this, I think ATR is really good. That's the average true range. And there are a lot of indicators out there on TradingView or Thinkorswim. But what essentially what they do is they take the data from a certain range looking back, and they say, okay, in this section of days, the stock trades an average of this range, this percentage every day. And so that way, if you're in a stock, it's working and you're catching an uptrend, you can trim into these ATR levels, because it's just a very like mathematical kind of quantitative way to do it. There will be institutional sellers doing the same thing, even if it's going higher. So it just gives you a really logical place to take profit. And they're often very, very reactive. So if you put them on your screen, you'll start noticing that price tends to fade there if it's going to on the day. And if it's going to be a trend day, it can break through the first kind of pivot and reach these higher ATRs. So it's just really good to know when to take the money off the table, essentially. So I think that covers it for the most core indicators. There are a lot more that I like, and sometimes will flip on and off. But in general, I don't trade with many indicators at all. I personally have a VWAP, a 200 moving average, a couple of custom indicators, which are essentially just streamlining what I've described to you right here. And that's all I really need. So don't overthink the indicators too much, but I did want to touch on them. So let's get into the supplemental tools. So this is all the stuff on the right side of my chart. So these are all the tools that I kind of use throughout the day to kind of help me get a feel for the market, tell me where the money's going, all that good stuff. So essentially, what we're looking at is, got distracted. What we're looking at is a few sites like Koifin, which is really good for it's like a Bloomberg terminal light. And that will just always let you kind of know if there's a big news thing hitting the market, if there's something that you should be aware of. I believe that they also have an economic calendar. If not, you can just Google economic calendar. That's a great resource as well. If you know what events are going to happen during a day and you know how important they are, which a lot of these will give rankings to how important they are, then you'll be able to kind of time your trades around them, and you won't get caught flat-footed and be like, oh, I didn't know that this press conference was happening, that this data release was happening. And, you can really get hurt by that. So it's really good to keep in mind. And I think that's a great tool for it. It also has some other kind of visualizations of PEs and other things that a lot of fundamental traders I know love to use. So yeah, highly recommend that. It's totally free. I think that it's really important for you to also be familiar with Bookmap. And you don't have to right away. It's kind of advanced and it takes a while to learn, but it will really help you kind of get a feel for the depth of the market and how the kind of mechanical moves work. And it's just a great factor of confluence you can have. So we can talk about Bookmap, and I can even show you my screen, and we can talk about that too. But in essence, it's very similar to a DOM, and that is basically showing all of the orders, the limit orders, buys and sells on any given stock that are on the books, so to speak. And so you can see where there are big shelves of people waiting, like, hey, all right, the stock's at 10.50. If it comes back to 10, this whale is buying a ton. And you'll see that resting order at $10 on the chain. So that's really useful. But what Bookmap gives you is it's like a 3D heat map of that kind of concept. So on the DOM, if that whale at 10K or, at $10, he said, actually, I changed my mind. I'm taking the order off the books. Well, it would show this big red line on Bookmap, and then it would just go black in that zone. So it's really useful, and we can talk about that. But that's one of the things that I almost always have up on my screen. I know a lot of people don't use that, and that's cool because they use a similar thing like the DOM, like I mentioned, or maybe a TPO chart or some other way to kind of get a feel for where the volume is traded on a market. Bookmap on NASDAQ. So that's a good question. So personally, I always just have it on ES. And the reason for that is because the levels are more defined on ES, which is the futures contract for SPY. So NQ is good too if you're maybe a little better at reading Bookmap than I am, or maybe if you're just trading that and you're just scalping minute candles. But what I like about the ES one is that it really shows these resting orders. They really sit for a very long time. Oh, we got somebody shouting out FinViz. You're jumping ahead of me, brother. Yeah, absolutely. I love FinViz too. So really quick to wrap up on Bookmap, it just gives you a really good visualization of where the trading is happening in the market, and you can see these things change in real time. So for example, today I was figuring out if the market was trying to catch or not into the afternoon, and I noticed this big resting order. The candles seem pretty ugly, but this big resting order, it was like the price was just diving to this magnet to meet this order, and then it would just hang out there and bop around for a few minutes. And I was thinking, man, okay, so I think what I'm seeing is that's a big buyer on the tape. And the market makers are like, oh, we don't have that many buyers up here. There's not much to sustain this price. But down here, we can fill a lot of orders. So they sell their positions and the market gets pushed down, and then everybody gets long again. And so what Bookmap showed me is that there was a big level of support. And then the cool thing is you could actually see here's your support. And then you can see the orders like ramping up and literally pushing the price up as they kind of chase the price, and the market like moves away from that essentially. So this is the kind of thing that's really hard to get with other tools. So I think it's an excellent tool to add to your toolbox. And there are also some really good learning tools. I might make one myself, but I want to shout out Bookmap themselves. They have their own guides about how to read it, and they're very comprehensive. I think they have one like a three lesson series that are like an hour and a half each, but they give so much actionable information. So if you start messing with Bookmap and you're like, well, what the heck is this? Is this like a Doppler radar? I don't know what I'm looking at. That's a great resource, or hit me up and I can tell you about the basics. I might do a whole webinar on it in the future, but either way, a really good tool there. And then FinViz, as Asam had mentioned there, it's really good for a lot of different things. It gives you sector heat maps, which I love. Just another way. I'm a very visual person, so I love seeing the data. You know, it's one thing to read it, but it's another thing to see parts of the map lit up, other parts of the map red, and you can really visualize how baskets of stocks are moving and how that money is changing around in the market on any given day. So the heat maps are great. They also have excellent scanners. So you can search for high volume stocks on any given day, or stocks that are breaking 52-week highs, or stocks that are, anything you can really imagine, honestly. They're very robust for a free scanner. So I use them regularly. I think it's a great service. And I probably check them 5 times a day on there. So I think these are some of the key market specific things that'll really help you to just kind of have up. And you don't need to always be looking at them, but just have them in your back pocket in a tab. They won't take up much space, and you can just flip through them as needed. Alrighty, so there's some other things though that I think are a little less trading specific. Like they're not like actually giving you macro data on the market, but they're super useful, right? So I mentioned Discord, also Twitter. Love it or hate it, a lot of the financial community is on Twitter, and you can really curate your feed to get really actionable information if you follow the right people. So maybe this will be another webinar topic in the future, but it's really important to basically curate a collection of really good information, and you can even organize it in different Twitter lists. So you can have like a technical analysis list, and you'll get all the tweets from the technical analysts you follow. You can have a macro analyst list, or sector specific lists, or I trade a lot of options flow, so there's a couple guys that I follow that post free information about options flow that they notice. And so this is all like really, really, I mean, it's leaving money on the table to not ever use these, because the amount of money I've made off of these free services, I mean, hey, it feels like everything is nickel and diamond you nowadays. So really good free information, even if you have to wade through a lot of craziness on Twitter sometimes. I think it's really worth it. So I always check my Twitter feed throughout the day. And for the people that I really, really value the information, I set the notification bell on. So I will get a push notification just to, maybe I get 10 to 20 a day. And, for me, it's worth it, but I know it can be annoying for some people. So yeah, let's see. Throw up a point here. Yeah, social media is a huge role in market sentiment. Reddit is one, absolutely. Yeah, so there are a couple great trading communities on Reddit as well. I wouldn't say Wall Street Bets is necessarily one of them. You probably have to dig a little bit deeper to find actionable information that's worth reading. But it is out there. It is out there. So definitely keep your ear to the ground. And if you find people who are smart, you can follow them on Reddit too, and then it'll just help you kind of keep it'll just like you're curating your Twitter feed, you're curating your friends lists, and also on Discord. If there's a trader that you admire or that you talk to in a server, reach out and you can talk, you can share ideas, and it's really nice because honestly, this is such a lonely job. Anybody who does this full time knows that if you don't have friends that are fun to trade with, you're cooked. You're going to get burnt out so much faster. So highly recommend all of that. This doesn't have to be a completely isolated, lone wolf kind of thing we're doing. We can make it social to some degree as well. So yeah, that's all really good stuff. Find a Discord community that you like, trade the pool. I mean, that's a great community, honestly. I have my own community, and instead of trading live in there, I just did it in Trade the Pool, and I got some really good actionable information from some of the guys in there. So they got good traders. They're really nice people. I'd highly recommend them. If anybody wants to join mine, you can message me or find me on Twitter, and that's an option. But I honestly, I'm going to spend a lot of time in Trade the Pools just because I've been having a lot of fun with the traders in there. So we also have a few other things that are just, they don't fall into any other category, but I always use them. And the first one, most important, you got to have some music. I mean, maybe some of you guys, maybe some of you are non-music listeners. You drive an hour and you don't turn on the radio. I don't get you, but if that's you, that's fine. For me personally, having music going that I enjoy is such a free mood boost and a free mental capital modifier. And by that I mean, it's so easy to burn out and get stressed when you're in a lot of trades, or maybe you're just in a stressful one. Maybe you've just had a long day or a long week. Regardless, there's something about music that you enjoy that really does put you in the flow state, and just in a good mood, and in a position where you can weather the stop outs and you won't take it personally and tilt. And when you're in a winning trade and there's a great song on, it's fire. It's great. So highly recommend just playing whatever you like in the background. It can even be I know some guys who trade with those binaural beats, those focus beats, and they're like, dude, I'm so locked in right now. And I'm like, all right, heck yeah, good for you. It's cool. So, see what works for you, but I think it's really worth your while. And the last thing I wanted to mention is ChatGPT or DeepSeek or Claude, any of these kind of LLMs, because it's really useful. Sure, it's nice to have real people, and I'm not saying don't bounce ideas back and forth with them, but sometimes you just want an answer fast, and you just want want to bounce something back and forth with somebody, without taking somebody's time, or without, X, Y, and Z. So I think these are really useful for kind of helping get your thoughts externalized, and then you can kind of play with your thoughts in a more tangible way, and you can build theses to trade off of. It can actually really help. I'm always surprised. I'm always surprised at the amount of functionability there is. Functionability. Okay, I'm a little tired. Anyways, you get so much usable information about trading. It doesn't have to be super time sensitive. I know some of these have a look back window where they can't see current information, but you can say okay, these things are going on geopolitically. What stocks could probably benefit the most? And then, honestly, I've done things like that so many times and just found absolute gems of trades that I just would not have had on my radar. So believe it or not, I use AI in my trading, but not in an algorithmic way. I just like talking to them. So just another thing to consider. I use that maybe 5 to 10 times a day. So we can talk about some workflow optimization here, because I think it's really important that not only that you have a good layout, but that you're able to kind of work with it and really understand why the things are where they are and just kind of get in a flow. So you have a good system to kind of go through. The nature of trading is, like I mentioned before, consistency is a huge component. So if you have a consistent routine every morning, or just rules that you trade by, this is what really does separate the people who can do this for a living and who can cut it out, and can make the cut, I should say, and the 95% who honestly probably couldn't do this full time. And it's not because they're bad traders. It's often because they're just undisciplined, or maybe they just don't have enough screen time, or maybe there's other compounding factors in their life. I do believe anybody can learn how to do this, but I do believe only 1 in 20 people will actually do the work required. So you guys are here. That's always already a big step. You're taking an active role in your learning. I don't think we even advertised this webinar, so extra cool that you guys are here. But essentially, this is what you need to do. You're on the right track. You're all going to make it, but it really helps to be consistent. So with that in mind, I think that a pre-market routine is really important. So it depends on your trading style. If you're a small cap trader, you got to hit those volume scanners and those big mover scanners. You got to see what's up way too high that you can fade. You got to see what has a bunch of volume cooking that you can maybe long, or whatever your trading strategy is. I don't understand how small cap guys do it. We've gotten beat up trying to trade those small caps this week, so I'm learning there too. But I know that there are scanners that really do help, and if you're looking at those ahead of time, you're one step ahead of the game when the bell opens there. So that's super important. Personally, I go through I go through like all of my main charts, like QQQ, SPY, VIX, the dollar, DXY, that kind of thing. And I just have a big list, and that's in my actionable watch list that we mentioned a few weeks ago. And I just really quickly go through all of them every morning and just say, okay, this is how we moved overnight. This is happening as I expected. Oh, this is a surprise. And just kind of, it gives me a mental checklist of things to kind of keep an eye out for during the trading day. And I kind of think our brains are like computers, right? So like we have RAM, and like if you kind of preload information in there, then you can access it really quickly. But if you're like thinking about this while you're watching charts, while you're looking for trades, while the market's open, everything's, a big blur, it's a lot harder to be consistent and actionable and put on actionable trades. So yeah, if you have 1 or 2 monitors, once the trading day starts, for example, you kind of want to cycle through your indices in your watch lists. And so, if you have multiple monitors, that's great. You can have them all out in front of you. If you have one, maybe you have different tabs. And I do this on increments of time. So for example, big pivotal moments in the market. So at open, I do this kind of every couple minutes for the first half an hour, because I think it's really important to watch the price action in the first half hour. And then every half hour or hour or so, I'll just kind of flip through all of the charts that I'm watching. And, often it'll be more often if I'm like actively trading, but when it's more of a chill swing trading kind of day, that's how I kind of keep my tabs on all the things in the market. So that's a good habit to have. And, you can be like, all right, here's the time. It's, this candle closed. It's time to take inventory of the market here. And it'll only take a minute. I swear. You just flip through a few tabs, be like, huh, okay, cool. And you'll be surprised what you kind of glean from that. So another thing you can do is you can check the book map. That's something that I'll, if I don't have it up actively trading using it, I'll check that every 15 minutes to half an hour and just kind of gauge like, oh, this was a big area of interest before, and they kind of took that interest off. So that kind of makes me adjust my trading plan on the fly. So all good stuff there. And I think it's also important to have some rules whenever you're trading. And it does depend on your setup. Like I said, if you have one monitor, it's probably best to stick with one trade. I'm not your dad. I won't make you, but it's stressful. It's stressful having multiple things going when you can't have eyes on all of them. So I think that it's ideal to have the things you're focusing on. If you have like 3 monitors, for example, right in the middle, and then it's like, okay, this is the focus. It's in the focus of my vision. I have all of my social stuff on this side. Whenever I need to, I just glance over and I'm good. I have my book map open on the other side, and I have my execution open over there too. And so then whatever I need, I just have to just kind of glance over, get it done, and then right back to the focus. And the nice thing about having your focus in the middle is that you also get the watch list next to it too. So you get a ton of information right in the center of your vision. And then you can use the peripheral vision optimally by allocating it to things that you don't need to be watching constantly. So I think that's really important. And also, I think another thing worth mentioning is if you have one monitor, and especially if you're trading multiple stocks, you can put alerts. Like I use TradingView alerts. You can do it on Webull or Robinhood or whatever else. And then you get a little ding and a little notification, maybe on your phone or whatever else. And it's really, really useful. Like I can't imagine, or I can't tell you all the times that I'm like, man, I bet the stock's going to come back to this level and this is where I want to long. But if I don't have the alert, I'm going to forget about it in 5 days or a week or whatever, you know? So the amount of times that I've just gotten a notification that like, oh, hey, this is the setup I've been waiting for. I don't even have to look at it, or, you know, I'll glance at it to confirm that it's not doing anything crazy. But in general, I don't have to really think about this trade. I've already done the work. All I need to do is execute it now. So this is, I mean, it feels so good. It's like just waiting for the money to come to you, right? You know, you have like maybe 10, 15, 20 stocks that you're waiting on a perfect entry on. And then you're never FOMOing into anything, right? Because at each day, a couple more will pop, and you know, it gives you fresh meat on the table, fresh stuff to trade every single day. So I think it's a really, really good thing to get in the habit of doing. Just set alerts at levels that you think are important. Make a little note about why you think they're important. And this is also great for back testing too, right? Because you'll be able to kind of get constant alerts throughout the week in like saying, okay, this did what I thought. Great. This helps me build confidence as a trader in my strategy. Oh, this didn't do what I thought. Okay, well, I probably need to re-examine something, or maybe it's just a fluke. But either way, it's giving you information, and it's all just like very small packets of information that only come when they're relevant. So I think it's a really good way to amp up your trading with just a simple habit. So let's see what else do we got going on. We talked about alt tabbing through tabs or through different windows. So then you can, if you have one monitor, or if you're splitting a monitor, you know, in a dual monitor setup, you want to have more things, emulate 3 screens, you know, you can use alt tab to switch through those really quickly. And you can switch through the tabs in a window by using control tab. So that'll cycle through all of the open tabs. So I think this is super useful, but you can also explore this further. You can get like a Stream Deck and have like customizable like macro hotkeys to different layout setups and everything. So, you know, you can get pretty in depth with this. I think that what we've covered is a really good baseline though. So let's hop into my chart and just see what I got going on there. Okay. So it's a little busy, right? It's a little busy. It's a lot going on. So what I'm going to do is first take off the indicators. We'll take off the drawings. Where is it? There it is. Okay. So we are going to first jump into one screen here, and I'll show you just my indicators and really quickly how I use them. You know, this won't be a full lesson, but just the ones I have on my screen. So I have I call this a multi time frame EMA. And so I have one EMA that I like to use. For me, it's a 27. You know, a lot of people will use a 20 or a 30 or a 50 or whatever. I like the 27. It works for me. So basically on every time frame, a 27 moving average is overlaid on this one chart, no matter what time frame I go to. So that's something I use, and just describing what's on my chart here. So this helps me, you know, you can emulate this with other indicators, which essentially give you higher time frame biases on a short time frame chart. So for example, you can use an indicator that marks the open, high, low, close of a weekly or daily candle. And then while you're day trading, you'll see those levels projected on your 1 minute, 5 minute, 10 minute, whatever chart. So that's how I kind of keep my bearings. This big purple level is the weekly trigger. So I knew that we'd probably want to get there because we're over this blue daily trigger, but I wasn't expecting to get much traction above it. So that's why I've been kind of shorting above it here on both of these days. So that's really important. And if you don't have that, you can just use other moving averages. So I think this indicator called OM multi-indicator is great. It basically combines three effective move or three EMAs, three SMAs, VWAP, and Bollinger Bands, and you can choose which of those you want on your screen. But it only takes up one indicator slot on TradingView, so you get really good bang for your buck in that regard. And yeah, it's good stuff. We also have our VWAP in purple. Like I said, that's part of that OM multi-indicator. This is something I trade off very heavily. And then I want to talk about this stuff on the side here. This is the volume profile. And remember when I said it's like volume, it is to volume at certain prices what the normal volume you're familiar with is in terms of times. So for example, let me say that in a less confusing way. End of day here, we see a bunch of green volume on this squeeze day right here. So we know what happened at this time, but what we can also see is what levels it came in at. So this is a big level. Let's mark this really quick. Oh no, it just brought them all back. Okay. Let's not do that. Anyways, this is a big level. And if we go over, we see that this is essentially where the breakout occurred, right? So sure, we knew that it was coming through in this kind of stick, but now we know the exact level of, oh, wow, yeah, it was trading into this and then it just surged above on volume. So that leg probably had moves, right? Like I was a bull this day because of the strength in that. And then, you know, we can also see levels that maybe were resistance and might flip to support. So this has a high volume node here, and it's basically where we stalled out this day before we sold off. So we stalled out there. A lot of shares were traded. So when we come back there and break through, this should act as support going forward. And over here, you can see we actually didn't transact it, but you know, there was clear buying incentive before this level. This acted as a good floor. So I think volume profile is really important for that. And another thing to note is you see these shelves, but you also see these liquidity gaps. Let's see. Oh, you can't see the highlight there. But yeah, these liquidity gaps right here. So between the big spikes, they're kind of empty spaces. And you'll see that price loves to just surge from one of these up to the next, just really seamlessly, like cutting through a hot knife through butter. So super useful stuff there. I think that everybody should have those going on. And is there anything else? Oh yeah, my ATRs, these levels here. So again, these are just essentially a tool that projects the average move of a stock, and it allows me to know what I should be reasonably shooting for so I don't get too greedy. So for example, on this day, this yellow line was basically the level where if we're going to stall, we're going to stall here. So when we got up to here and we started selling, that informed my bias of just saying, okay, I caught this. I don't need to get crazy. You know, I should probably wait and see what happens. And it surged overnight. So, you know, it was just waiting essentially for the Chinese session. But then we will be targeting on a bullish day like this, we're targeting these green levels. So yeah, price came up to them pre-market, and that's basically where it wicked out, and then, you know, stalled out during the day too. So this was a very strong stock, so it kind of surged over it. But for a lot of them, you'll see it play very nicely with these levels. So that is ATR. So I'm using these moving averages that we mentioned in VWAP as entries when they either, you know, break down and then back test and then fail, and I'll do that as a short, or maybe they break down and reclaim. And I love taking reclaimed VWAPs as a long, or a reclaimed key moving average. So if one of those happens, then I'm in a trade, and then I'm using the moving averages to kind of inform how long I want to hold it. So for example, on the 1 minute chart here, I bought BABA at $28 today, $128 today. And basically it was because it came down again, and then showed buyers. And so then I'm saying, okay, it wants to reclaim these short-term moving averages. It wants to run and sweep these market highs, pre-market highs. So I'm going to, up here, I was like, okay, this is bullish. It broke this previous high, but I didn't want to chase it here, you know, because it just surged up above VWAP, this purple line. So instead I said, okay, it's going to fade VWAP, but I think that it's going to make a higher low. And so then the second it started doing this, where it started to say, okay, I don't want to go lower, I was already looking long. And then when this candle posted a really strong move, right when it closed, I just hit enter. So that kind of informed it. So now I'm using the moving averages we mentioned, and it just kept holding them. And, one candle's whatever. I need one candle plus follow through to get me out of like a scalp like this. So especially when it's working already, like quickly. So just riding it up, I'm watching this blue line. Watch this blue line. This candle scared me, and this felt like we were getting too high. So I sold my options here, not perfectly, probably like right there or something. And then I wanted to see what happened on the back test here. And, this had me thinking I missed the whole, would miss a big squeeze. But then we kind of get our confirmation here where it loses and has follow through this moving average. So any candle close below this short-term moving average, or any of these, you can look at the blue one, see we're riding it as support, and then it flipped to resistance. So basically, I knew that the stock had made an average move for the day on a bullish day, and now it was showing signs of weakness. So down here, it needed it to show me and prove me that I was wrong. Like this candle didn't scare me because the next one was up. It's a little different up here. Up here, if a candle breaks through a moving average, like this scared me. I'm not gonna lie. And this would have been like, okay, it's time to just book the win, right? Because we know that we're extended, we know that we're getting signs of weakness, and then we are also watching our volume profiles too. So we knew that there was a lot of volume to kind of churn through up here, and probably it wasn't just going to squeeze on us. So that's just kind of how I use these to inform a trade, both an entry and an exit. So good stuff there. We also have my watch list here, which is all of the things that I just think are relevant to watch on any given day. Wow, that's a lot of red. But yeah, having the sectors, super useful. Having the top 20 stocks by market cap, having positions you're in, having just kind of useful stuff like bonds and stock, or, Dixie and indexes. If you're able to really quickly switch through those, you can really quickly get a lot of information. So TLT a little weak today. Qs tried to break above key moving averages, but kept getting rejected. Gold squeezing. This is all giving us really valid, actionable information, right? And as you can see, this ATR provided a great target for a very bullish day in gold. And as you can see, this yellow line acted as resistance, but once it got over it, it said, okay, now we're ripping. So really useful tools there. I think that it is a good time for any questions. If anybody has questions or comments, I'm going to look through back here too and start working through them. And yeah, if anybody has any other ones, just drop them in chat. All right. Yeah. VWAP is super useful for swing trading, isn't it? It's really great. My co-host on Tuesdays when I stream for Trade the Pool, Michael Noss, he has a really great system where he trades using anchored VWAPs, and he'll trade from one anchored VWAP, like the 1 day anchored VWAP, to the 2 day anchored VWAP. And just watching the stocks just systemically go from one to the other, it's really cool. And it really shows that you can use very simple tools to have very actionable, very profitable, very consistent trading systems. That's a great one. DJ 2 a.m., you are the small capper here. Welcome, you crazy dude. Yeah, it is a different world, right? What was I trading today? I tried my hand at, I already forget. What was it? I literally can't remember the stock I traded today. That's crazy. Long day. Okay, needless to say, it was very small float and it was very stressful. And oh, it was Pony. That's what it was. This one was wild. I tried to short it here. I got stopped out pretty quick, but I'm glad I did because, yeah, these things move like crazy. I don't know how you guys do it, but I respect it. Let's see what else we got. Another great comment by Osama here. They said trading isn't an exact science. It's not 1 + 1 = 2. If it was, then scientists would be better than traders. So I always say this. I think trading is an art, not a science. There's a lot of science involved, a lot of quantifiable strategies, and very mathematical components to it. But it's all about how human beings use these parameters and these algorithms to kind of outsmart each other. And so it's very much. There's very much an art to this, both on the trading side and on the market making side and on the institutional investing side. And they're all playing different games, and they're all kind of duking it out here, so in the marketplace of the market. So yeah, I absolutely agree. It's not as simple as that, as this is the exact way to trade. Otherwise an algorithm would be doing it and we would have no job. So because I know that I can out trade an algorithm, I know that it's not just mathematical, because I know I'm not more mathematically gifted than a supercomputer, but I can out trade them. So there's a lot of latitude we have as people to just really, really have an edge and push it. All right. Let's see. Nasir says, have you mentioned about the bull bear zones and targets? Is that Camaria? Great question. Yeah. So it's very similar to Camaria. I think it uses the exact same formula for calculating the levels. But yeah, essentially, so the yellow here is like, I believe it would be referred to as an R1 in a Camaria pivot system, which is essentially like an area where if the stock is in mean reversion or consolidation, it probably won't surge above that. But if you do get a move above that, then it's often good for stretches to these other targets. So let's see. What might be a good example? Let's just look at some stocks here and see what we see. Okay, yeah, so here's a good example. So the bear supply zone is kind of what I was talking about. This is the area where optimally, if you're short and you see this pop, I'm sorry, if you want to go short and you see this pop, this is kind of the area where you would want to step in. So it kind of sweeps over here. It isn't breaking the highs of here, because that would be super bullish, right? You would probably expect it to go further, but it kind of filled up this gap. It kind of swept over it into this kind of big volume profile shelf here. And it was just, this distance away, where this is the likely area where bears would step in. As you can see, they did twice really cleanly. And so then this level, this yellow, this is where you would expect, if price could break above that, then it's going to keep ripping to these green levels. And, of course, vice versa here. So the other thing is, you can see if you're a bull, this is the zone where you'd want to buy. And they tried right here and got a decent move. You can trade zones to zones. I do that a lot on days where I'm not expecting a huge move. So yeah, there's a lot of viability to these. Let's see if we can find out anything else on one of these. So yeah, Tesla sold really cleanly off of this zone, dropped down, sold cleanly in the morning, sold again. Man, Tesla looks heavy. Yeah. Let's see. Camaria pivots served well on ES and NQ futures trading today. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Let's take a look at that. This used to be one of the only indicators I used. This essentially Camaria pivots. So good for downside targets today. Overswept a little bit. This candle was crazy. You guys were trading today. This messed me up. This scared the heck out of me. I didn't know what was going on. I had to go check the news. So that's why it's good to have news easily accessible. Man. So yeah, that's a candle. That's a candle. But besides that, this zone was quite reactive. You saw it, showing wicks up into it right here. And yeah, SPY's looking heavy. I would say that I will be looking to short up around here tomorrow, ideally. So yeah, great questions, absolutely, and comments. Really good stuff. All right, Tyler, what happened with Marvell? Did I miss something on them today? I don't know. Let's find out together. That's rough. Let's check if it's earnings. Not earnings. Okay, interesting. Let's find out. So really quickly, I mean, this isn't rocket science. Just like, in terms of like getting it in fast, in case like you're like, what is going on with my stock? Often I don't have the mental capacity to like, let's see, here we go. The mental capacity to really, know where to look. So I can just literally Google the ticker news, and often something will come up. So it looks like falls on postponed investor day. So that's kind of yikes. They had a date where they wanted to present stuff and show the cool stuff they're doing, and they said, actually, we're not ready. So probably not the best look. It seems like the market was punishing them for that. Let's look at the actual chart. And while I'm sure that was a big factor, what I think is probably more key is that it looks pretty technical to me, this sell. So yeah, so this is what I see. This jagged blue line, that's my daily trigger. It's coming down. If it can hold over this, then the stock is in an uptrend on the daily chart. It tests it, shows their sellers there, it pops it and is back testing it. So, it's kind of an ambiguous look, but it's kind of, it hasn't really fully proven itself yet. I would like to see, I would like to see another undercut and another reclaim, essentially like a double bottom type look. And then I just pulled up a range here, a Fibonacci range, like we talked about last webinar. And you can see they got a perfect 0.62 pullback short entry there. So another thing to note is on this big crazy candle that tested the 50% fib before selling off. And then that is also kind of where we were consolidating. So these are all important levels to watch. And also one other thing we can see from the other webinar. Oh, it was a very deep shakeout here, but they did shake out all of the bulls who bought in this candle by pulling back. I bet if we go to this range, there it is. See it undercutting the 0.78 stop loss hunt candle before making a move up. So yeah, I think that the catalyst was that missed Investors Day, but people were looking for a reason to sell it. And that's probably why it sold so hard. Let's see, whale influence maybe if there's no negative news. Yeah, I mean it's definitely a whale if they're moving the market that much, right? But this is also just I've traded Marvell a good amount, and it's just a volatile stock. It's a very whippy, back and forth, wild thing to trade. Man, yeah, I did not catch this move. Let me tell you guys, got chopped out all up in here for small gain, small loss, small gain, small loss. Very wild chart. So yeah, that'll be an interesting one to watch, but this move's pretty unsustainable. I would not at all be surprised if we had to revisit. We tagged it, but I'd like to see it cut a little deeper, back to like 40 or so, and then show support. And what we can do is we can put a fib on this major range. And see, there are some buyers in this golden pocket. But I mean, this isn't even the full range. So I think it'll be really key to see when it can break over the 66.71 zone. Because as you can see, there's just so many touches of here. It's a big volume profile shelf. So yeah, keep an eye on that and keep an eye on the weekly 200 moving average. That's another reason it probably sold off. There's probably a lot of people saying, okay, I want to short this, or I am short and I want to add short on the back test of this major level. So just a few things to consider there. Let's see. Does anybody have any questions specifically on trading setups or how to use them, anything like that? Not all at once, guys. Come on now. All righty. Well, in that case, we have been going just about an hour, I believe. And I think that is as good a place as any to stop. So let me double check, make sure I don't have anything else for you. Oh yeah, let's see. Really quick. Don't have 20 tabs open if you're trading on one screen. It's going to mess you up. And if you have a bunch of screens, use them, use the real estate, right? Don't ignore your focus list. Don't ignore other things that you may have going on the side of your screens, because it'll be really helpful to inform you, as long as you're curating the information and not just I never use the For You tab on Twitter, for example. I'm always in the following one. So stuff like that, just to kind of keep things focused, but use the screen real estate.
Yes.
Tim likes that. Let's see.
Don't let the program you.
About to get a laptop. Recommendations? No, Tyler. I'm useless. I'm sorry. Thanks. Let's see. Nasir, you're very welcome. Do you trade live in Group Daily? Yeah. So almost every day I'm trading live, either in Trade the Pool server. I've been doing that a couple days a week. And I also have my own server. You could find that if you like by going to my Twitter. And then it's in the description there. You're more than welcome to join. But yeah, even if you're not with me, you're not with Trade the Pool, I think it's so useful to just have a community, right? So I mean, that's why I love what I do here. We're helping build a great community. I meet great new traders every day, and it's a lot of fun. Let's see. Got another question here. Can we just use smartphone? Can we just use smartphone for trading setup? Do you think it's realistic? I know some people who are very good at it. I think it is very suboptimal. Um, the tools needed are rarely integrated in the brokerage that you're executing the trades on. So, for example, Robinhood is not going to have the technical indicators that you probably really want to see. The interface just isn't very conducive to to really getting the full picture the way you could with having multiple charts up, comparing price action, comparing movements in the markets. I think you're definitely missing out on a lot. I know some people who do it, but just you really got to focus, you gotta really hone in on what you're doing. If you're trading on your phone, you got to be trading one stock. Ideally, you have a computer screen to look at least, so you have another point of reference, and that'll definitely help. But you gotta trade within your the means of your system, so to speak. So I think it's possible, and I'm not discouraging you from trying, but if you have access to bigger screens, it really does help. All right, Joey coming in with, are there hotkeys to pop up window for limit orders or stop orders? I am not sure. I'm just getting familiar. I've only been using Trade the Pool's platform to trade on as a brokerage for a couple months, and I am very technologically inept, as Tim knows, watching me try to set up these these things when he doesn't help me. He knows that I'm not super sharp with technology sometimes, so I don't know the hotkeys myself. I'm pretty sure there are some though. So what you can do is you can ask and Trade the Pool's in their community. I'm sure there is a questions section, and they can set you up with that information. But hotkeys are really good. Oh, there's that's Trade the Pools, I'm assuming, Discord invitation there. So yeah, check it out. It's a great community. Come on in. And yeah, I'm with you. I'm still getting used to it too. I keep on forgetting to change the quantity of orders when I trade from the screen. So I'll switch charts and think I'm trading 100 shares. And then I'm like, oh, I took this great trade and I made 72 cents because I had one share. And that feels a little silly. That's a me problem though, because I know there's a way to change the default settings. I just haven't done it yet. So no shade to Trade the Pool. Just shade to me not taking my own advice and having an optimal trading setup. So do as I say, not as I do. You are very welcome. You're very welcome. We do this every week. It's a lot of fun. We bounce around from different topics. So if there's something you're interested in, you want to learn about, just shoot me a DM, ask it in the Discord maybe, or whatever you like. And I really do like communicating with people and kind of tailoring the information I'm giving to help, to give you guys what you want. Let's see. What else do we have? Where's your personal Twitter and server info? Okay, so I can get that to you. It's on Twitter. It is at Justy Trades, JUSTY Trades. It's an old Reddit handle that kind of stuck, so I might change it going forward. But that is my Twitter handle, and you will find my Discord community, the invite in the bio of that. And it's free to join. We have some good people there. But yeah, I kind of split my time from there and Trade the Pools server, and you'll always find me somewhere, All right. And we got Tim VSync coming in saying the best for keys is the scalper. I know that's a tool on Trade the Pool that I want to learn how to use because it looks fun. And you can also pop up order entry dialog, and you can find that information in the manual and in the channel in the Discord server, terminal walkthroughs. Good stuff there. Thank you. All right. Thank you. I appreciate that, Nasir. It's we're all in the process of learning, but that's what I love about both Trade the Pool and my own server. We're all learning together. There's it's good vibes and we're having fun. And most importantly, we are trading better each week than we were the last week. In theory, at least, hopefully. We're trying to. So yeah, I'd love to see you in there. And thank you, Tim, for dropping my Twitter there. Awesome. Great stuff, guys. I had a lot of fun.
Can you pass on my comment about laptops versus desktops. You don't have to put it in your own mouth, but I don't want that head right now.
All right.
So, I started.
Sorry, I think I missed one here. So this is Tim is asking about somebody was looking for a laptop. So let's see. Do you need it specifically for portability? If not, I strongly recommend looking into buying a desktop system. More bang for your buck and flexibility. I would definitely agree with that. I think that there's a lot of versatility that comes with the desktop. And when I try to trade on my laptop, it just gets cooked. And it's not a bad laptop. So it can be a lot with all these different things that we want to run, or even just a few charts on the screen. So desktop really is the way to go if you can swing it. I know it's not for everybody, but if you can do it, I think that's the way to go. So, yeah, that's not the closing slide. Ignore that. The closing this is how to optimize your screen real estate. You got all the things you need now. You got the tools. We will come back and we will talk about how to use them, how I trade my system. We'll be talking about a whole bunch of stuff. But for now, I just wanted to give you the tools so that you can integrate this into your workflow and you can get the most out of some really helpful free stuff. So thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate all of the engagement, all of the questions, and all the people that showed up, because I don't think we advertised this much. So you guys are the real ones, and I appreciate y'all. Have a great day, and I will see you next week. Take care.